Hey guys, welcome back to the letter. This is DJ Gamer Girl signing on. So, last episode we met up with our clients, the Wrights, came to the mansion, and now we're doing a more thorough inspection. Starting with the first floor. The banisters are on the grand staircase's landing are solid and at a proper height. Any lower and they would be in trouble. There's a small catch on the carpet, though, but as long as nobody tries to run down the stairs until it gets fixed, things should be alright. And the stained glass? Art. Restored, no doubt, in the image of the First Lady and Lord of Ermengarde. Or it was supposed to be, until Lady Charlotte's fiancé was brutally murdered. By a witch of all things. From what I've read, do you think the historians of this place would be a lot more scrutinizing filtering out stuff like that? I'm amazed they bothered with it instead of replacing it with some generic cookie-cutter design. This entire piece alone would have cost roughly 500, even £1 million. Lady Charlotte Ermengarde and her beloved. Looking at the mosaic, it's not too far a stretch of the imagination to believe that the depicted images could be Mr. and Mrs. Wright. It can be easily assumed as such, if one doesn't know about the history of the mansion. Really, a place like this should be protected by the government as a landmark. But what can I do about it? Walking into the East Wing, I try to go to the theater, but it is met with an obstacle. The obstacle that is locked doors. 2 doors. 2. Both of them are locked. I'd be frustrated. Would be, if I already hadn't snuck off while the Wrights were having their little business meeting with Miss Cooper before to take a peek. With what Mr. Wright wanted, we'd have to install a powerful projector, the type they use in cinemas, and a projection screen. The seats would have to be reupholstered, if they're to be any comfortable. And the walls will have to be covered in dark material, paint, wallpaper, or install wall-to-wall carpeting. Really, of all the rooms I could be jealous of, it's this one. I could just picture myself in there, watching old kung fu flicks on a weekend lawn marathon. Makes me wonder what kind of movies Mrs. Wright would like. Rom-coms, perhaps? Her husband, on the other hand, I'd rather not think about it. Wouldn't surprise me if it was porn. In the middle of my notation and planning, I don't even realize that I'm not alone, until I'm caught standing in front of a locked door like a fool.
Were you meaning to go in there? I'm afraid we won't be able to open it up today.
Oh well, I wanted to, but it's fine. I can still survey the rest of the place.
Apologies, but the key was missing when they were handed over. They told us that they'd get right back to us with it.
What? But aren't they supposed to hand over all the keys once property changes hands? That can be grounds to file a complaint.
They were already kind enough to let us move in so early. There's no need to raise a fuss about it. Worst comes to worst, we can call for a locksmith.
The air is heavy and somber when she goes quiet and glances out the window. Out towards the vast expanse that surrounded what would be their house. Their home. Then she looks back at me with a sigh and a bitter smile.
Flowers. Yellow flowers. Daffodils, dandelions, and sunflowers and the sort all up front. Just a whole garden of them. They'll make the house look lovely, won't they?
Of course. A garden is a wonderful addition to any home.
As I say this, her eyes roam over to me, scrutinizing and thoughtful. I have to hold back the shiver that threatens to run down my spine at being inspected so closely.
Yes, it must be nice.
We're still talking about the gardens, yes?
I mean not having to worry about what another person thinks of you.
What do you mean by that?
She lifts her hand and points to her wedding ring before it falls listlessly to her side.
Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I didn't marry Luke. There'll be no fights about walk-in closets or silly helipads. I could do with this place as my heart desires until there's nothing but content. Then again, I wouldn't have bought this place if it wasn't a gift for him. I probably wouldn't even be in Luxbourne if it wasn't for him. Maybe I would have moved to London, Manchester, or Birmingham. I might have even left the country altogether. France, Germany, Spain, Canada, Sweden, even America. The possibilities would have been endless.
Don't know what to say. What is there to say?
I'm sorry, I must sound so petty and ungrateful. I do love him. So very much, even if he can be a bit difficult at times.
Oh no, not at all. I'm just confused why you're telling me this, of all people.
Just a whim, I think. Just flights of fancy, that's all. Don't you ever think about one decision you've made in your life and wonder how much would change if you chose to do things differently?
I try not to dwell on the past, ma'am.
Keyword is try, of course. Thinking of the past brings up too many ghosts. Memories of her. And I do wonder what would change if I just said yes when she asked for me. Maybe she'd still be with me. I return to the present. Just like I said, I try not to dwell on the past. You must have been quite the pair. Why don't you decide on your own? Yeah. Damn. Her worry seems simple enough. I mean, it doesn't have to be as difficult as she makes it out to be, right?
Why don't you decide on your own?
I meant nothing against Mr. Wright, of course, though whiskey buggered me to no end. By law, she would be owner of the house. Well, unless they signed a joint property ownership anyway, which is a rare thing as far as I know, especially among these highbrow types. Sure, they could actually love their spouse, I don't doubt the possibility. But money is money, and it makes people do the most horrible things sometimes.
It's your house. You can paint the whole place pink if you want, and there's not much he can do.
The somber expression changes to a look of contempt.
I could, but we are husband and wife. Equal partners in marriage, Marianne, though I can see that you don't understand. This is his home as much as it is mine. I'm not going to go behind his back over a room. And how dare you suggest that?
How do I even talk her down without causing further offense? It's in my attempt to shake off my own drama that I end up tripping right into theirs. Because really, I have no business meddling in the affairs of my clients, unless it involved interior design or architecture. Yet here I am, opening my mouth and yapping. I do hate to see a good woman down.
That's not what I meant by it. I just mean that maybe you don't have to get the approval of your husband all the time. Or well, okay, fine. I know nothing about married life, Mrs. Wright. You're right about that. But I still think you're allowed your indulgences every now and then.
Of course, my form of indulgence meant by an old Slade 78 RPM country records. Records which I don't even dare use with my gramophone. For her, it could very well be buying the entire houses.
That's just my take on it. A perfect relationship is as rare as hen's teeth. You got what you got. I mean, you're doing well enough without my advice. Sure, look it.
That looks to placate her somewhat. She looks away and starts to favor the view outside, more with a faraway look in her eyes.
Feel free to look around the rest of the house. Everything but the theatre should be open. Just call if there's need of me.
Of course, Mrs. Wright.
I really shouldn't have opened my big mouth in the first place. That sort of thing only gets me in trouble. Keep it clean, keep it simple, and stick to business. That's it. Be professional. But I failed to do that just because of a pretty face. When she turns to leave, she glances back at me before disappearing into the foyer. I look out the window from where she was standing, and I move on. Alone, with nothing but my thoughts of her. My thoughts at her.
Finally, some peace and quiet. Thought the old biddy would never leave.
It's utter madness, this hearing things. I reckon it's the stress, though I don't know exactly what I'm stressed about. If meeting Mrs. Wright has really thrown me for a loop, I'd be worried. If I'm developing some sort of psychosis or disorder, well, I'd call a doctor. But hopefully he isn't that. Not right here and not right now. I mean, it could just be that personal talking cricket, the conscious, so to speak. And I'm only noticing now, though if it is, it isn't very helpful. Pushing the dilemma of voices in my head aside, I go back to work. But I barely make it a few steps before everything tilts and shifts. I don't really stumble, but it feels like I'm being thrown off my feet, and the rest of the world just follows. though my feet stay firmly on the ground, and even if I stay mostly upright, I feel I've been heaved and put off balance. I have to close my eyes in the hopes of willing the sudden sense of vertigo away, but when I open them, well, I don't feel any less sick of the sight that greets me. Blood dripped from the carpets and the ceiling, pooling downward and seeping into the curtains and carpet. A wave of nausea, stronger than the last, hits me along with the overpowering stench of blood and gore. I want to bolt. The rational part of my head is telling me to flee. And I would have gladly done as it asked, if only I didn't hear her.
In here, Marianne. Come on. I have something to show you.
I could have ignored it. I would have ignored it, if I only heard it in my head. But I swear that this time it's coming from one of the rooms, much further in into the study. And I feel compelled to pay attention. I can't just turn around and leave. Not when it's her. I don't even think as I follow the sound of her voice. Okay, I guess we're looking in on memory. Lorraine. Lovely Amanda Lorraine Lasafiona. She was my friend, the only one I had at St. Sampson's. I was a scholar, the charity case, in a school for privileged and prestigious young girls. They all looked down on me, if they cared to look at me or acknowledge my presence at all. All except her.
Oh, stop your crying. You know better than to listen to Maeve. Why, I ought to teach that butterface a lesson.
Wait, no, lass! I don't want you getting into trouble with the sisters again!
Relax. It's not like I'm going to stomp her and her lackey's arses flat like last time.
Come on, let's just go back to our dorm room. I don't want to be on my Tobler while you go get yourself punished.
You'll be fine. Gip's there with you.
Lorraine was there when I needed her, through my highs and lows. Having her as a friend made being in a strange school away from my father all the more tolerable. She saw this poor helpless girl who was kept down and shunned by everyone else. And, being the kind soul that she was, she rescued me. So brave, so beautiful. She was something else.
I'll eat all the chocolates stashed away in your closet if you go.
I can get more. Just don't go complaining to me if you get a tummy ache because of that.
Well, you don't want to get detention on a weekend, do you? It's a Friday. We can go to town and have some karaoke. And we can have a go at druids and demons again. You're not going to miss that just because of Maeve, are you?
Sometimes I question what I did to deserve a friend like her. In the darkest corners of my mind, where traitorous thoughts lurked, I thought that she only felt sorry for me. Maybe she was just being a good Samaritan, offering a helping hand. And perhaps I'd been too selfish to return the favor.
You have a point. I'll just kick her arse on Monday then.
That's not what I mean!
I know what you mean, Em.
Wait, where are you going? You just told me you wouldn't cause trouble.
I still have something to do. Don't worry, it's not like I'm going to burn down her dorm room or something criminal like that. I'm just going to talk to her. Maybe I'll make it so that her room smells like a dog's air biscuit. That'll make it an excellent weekend. I'll see you in a bit, Marianne. Lots of tumblers.
Because when she told me that she loved me, I couldn't admit that I felt the same way. Not to her, and not even to myself. It was wrong. I was taught that way. Husband and wife, one man and woman. Unclean, impure. I prayed for her and for her sins and for salvation. I wanted to apologize for disregarding her feelings so callously. Must have been like a slap to the face for her. But life had gotten in the way. Exams, which were trivial in hindsight now, took top priority. I had to keep my grades up to keep my scholarship. For my father. I told myself I'd apologize to her when those were over. That I needed to focus first and not let anything distract me. It had been easy when she avoided me like the plague. She was upset, I get that. I thought I had the time to make things right, but
At 7 in the morning, students found a 5th-year dead, assumed to have fallen from her dormitory window.
they told us it was an accident. That was the official statement. But I knew better. She was dead because of me.
Maeve had a hoot and I kicked the bucket, didn't she? Ding dong, the witch is dead!
She had, though she didn't say which, Lorraine.
But at least Maeve had the courage to admit how she felt about me.
I don't even know how long I've been stuck here in a trance. In the mirror, Lorraine smiles at me. She's as beautiful as I remember her. But then I feel bile rise up my throat as her clean image wraps into how she looked when they had found her dead, lying on the cold, hard ground. Good Saint Dymphna, great wonder worker in every affiliation of mind and body, help me. I'm seeing things, hearing things. Am I going completely insane? I looking everywhere but at her. I hope and pray that's enough to will whatever this is to go away. Doesn't even immediately register in my head that I could just leave.
You, on the other hand, can't even look me in the eye.
This isn't real. You're not. You're dead!
I'm dead. Because of you. And you won't even look at me. Look at me.
My breathing quickens, and I can feel my heart being torn apart by her words.
I'm so sorry, Lorraine.
Look at me!
I can't take it because she's right. It was my fault. The least I can do is look at what I've done. Lorraine, broken and bleeding, looks at me with such hate-filled eyes. An unnatural smile stretches across her face, and I can only see malice in it. She lunges as the mirror ripples around her form, the glass parting like the water surface for her. She grips my shoulders. I can feel her nails dig deep, sharp enough through the fabric of my clothes.
There you are. Why won't you love me?
Apologies spill through my lips as tears cloud my vision. But I won't give in to this madness. With every bit of strength I have left, I struggle to get away from her. Fear grips and threatens to choke me. I endure. I escape. And without turning back, I stumble back out. In my panic, I don't even care to look where I'm going. With one hand on the wall to steady me, I just hobble as fast as I can away from the study. Away from that mirror. Freedom is bittersweet. I'm free from the madness, it seems, as running out of the hallway reveals it to be in pristine condition. But it means I've turned my back on Lorraine. Again. I have no plans of stopping, not until I know I'm safe. If that's what it means, and if that means walking back to Luxburn, as ridiculous as the idea is, then so be it. Someone suddenly grabs hold of me, however. Fingers digging deep into my shoulder and my heart nearly stops. My body seizes up and I nearly scream.
Marianne, you look awful. I mean, not awful, but did something happen? Are you all right?
This is right.
Oh. Without thinking, I sought comfort, seeing that it wasn't her. It's a sudden impulsive thing to do, and I'd been in a better condition. Had I been in a better condition, I wouldn't even dare doing such a thing. But I didn't know what else to do. Though I know I shouldn't. Her warmth, her scent, they grounded me. She's intoxicating.
Marianne, what's going on? Oh, you're shaking like a leaf.
Tremors run through my body as soon as my mind realized I'm no longer in danger. I wanted to cry, scream about what I had seen, but like a scared child, I couldn't control myself. My mind couldn't reconcile with what I'd seen. I should just write it off as a figment of my imagination, yet I can still feel her nails cutting into my skin.
Are you sick? Should I call for a doctor?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Wright. Just feeling a little woozy and lightheaded is all.
Let's get you somewhere to sit down then. Come on, don't worry, I have you.
A lie. But a whole lot less complicated than telling her I was attacked by a dead girl. When the feeling of fear eases off, I feel nothing but shame for my actions. I quickly back away as I clear my throat and nod in thanks.
I think I've had enough looking around. If it's all right with you and Mr. Wright, I'll meet you outside.
If you're sure, I'll have the car started. Do you need assistance heading downstairs?
I'm all right, ma'am. Just go on ahead and I'll be right there.
It seems to placate her worries, though only for a brief second. Before she heads down, I don't miss the concerned glance she shoots my way, hidden under another smile. I won't begrudge her for it. That worry. The look on my face must have been a strange enough sight on its own. Even I'm still reeling from it. From whatever that was. Her voice still whispers in my ears. After all these years, she's still... No, Marianne. Shaking my head at the thought, I drag in a breath and follow shortly after Mrs. Wright. Whatever has happened in the past, it's long gone. Only memories now. And those are the things I can no longer bring back. It's already dark as we make our way out of the mansion. With no lights, we're only Okay, I just had to... That was adorable! Ugh. Honestly, Marianne and Hannah. Like, all around, I think Hannah deserves better. There's no doubt at one point they did actually love each other. Her and Luke. But, if they can't work things out, and if it's true that he cheated on her with Rochelle, Hannah, you're gonna need to find someone new, and Marianne is single. With no lights, we're only illuminated by the headlamps of the Wright's car and the stars up above us. The sight of them helps me compose myself much more than several minutes of being alone did. The car's engine is running, yet the two still stand out on the lawn. Mrs. Wright is busy, eyes up to the stars. And Mr. Wright, arms crossed, has his eyes down on the ground. It is the crunch of the grass under my heels that brings their attention to me.
About time. What took you so long? A minute longer and I'd think the house swallowed you all up.
Oh, hush, dear. I'm sure she has her reasons. Marianne doesn't seem the sort to idle.
Sorry, I was just checking on something important.
See, business is business and they take time, love. You should know that better than anyone. So, Marianne, what do you think? Are you the woman for the job? I know we already signed papers hiring you, but I want to be 100% sure that you are committed.
I glanced back towards the mansion, knowing what I'd seen there, or rather, who I thought I saw there, because there's just no way. Not to mention how I acted towards Mrs. Wright, for God's sake. I should feel the slightest bit hesitant. I was lucky. I've seen enough films to know what happens when a promiscuous woman enters a haunted house. This is my chance to turn it down, make excuses, say I'm not up to the task, that I need to take care of my old sick father. Just pay the fine, which is probably outrageous for a contract like this, and let it go. I should turn it down. For some obstinate reason I can't. In the same manner I haven't let go of her, of the regret that has shadowed me since that day. Much as I hate to admit it, even to myself seeing her again, the mischievous glint in her eyes, those loose tendrils of her hair curled around her forehead. It's something I've terribly missed, and now that it's here, almost within arm's reach, My father would tell me sometimes you simply have to go through with it, consequences be damned. And, well, I really don't have any logical reason to say no. At least not something a client like the Wrights would want to hear from a professional designer.
It's certainly an interesting project. You can be sure I'm seeing it through the end.
Such dedication! Oh, I do love the determination.
You were always determined like that, weren't you?
Hearing her voice once again sends a chill running down my back. I can't wait for this day to be over. From the mansion and through Anselm, I rode with them in silence. But as soon as we hit city proper, I asked to be dropped off and bid them a good night. I thought it'd be best if I didn't stay too long and combined spaces with either Mrs. or Mr. Wright. Both of them seemed to cause me serious trouble, and if the project had been any less interesting or grand, I would have dropped it without a second thought. Would have, shouldn't have, won't. I assume that my place isn't that far off, and I have to fight the urge to roll my eyes and groan when whiskey throws a little smirk. But even in my own home, peace is elusive, as is sleep. I lie awake thinking of what I saw in that mansion, of who I saw. If I so much as hear a single whisper from her, if I so much as see a wisp of her hair, I'm afraid I'll go mad. But none of that happens. And it makes me feel hollow. For 2 nights I've had trouble sleeping. But it's only one morning when fatigue has already let me rest, so I'm reminded of what terrifies me so. In my restless dreams, I see that mirror, the one in the study, and in it I see her. I see them. Lorraine and Hannah. Hannah and Lorraine.
Poor pathetic Marianne. Work, work, work. She'll work herself to death.
See, she doesn't listen. That's all she did. Look at what happened to me.
They talk among themselves with cruel smiles and venomous tongues. Or rather, to themselves. 2 heads, 1 body. Horrible mockery of these women, as if they were one and the same.
More's the pity. Life goes on and goes out, and she doesn't even see it.
Do you think she'll even realize when she's kicked the bucket herself?
When they say a person has a hard time telling when they're in a dream, it was true often enough. Even with this bizarre sight, even with the obvious implications this isn't real, I can't help but feel distress.
Likely. Is that any way to live at all? She might as well be dead.
Cruel fate that she's alive and I'm... well...
Though they speak into each other's ears, in low tones and hushed, I can still hear them as clear as day. Their whispers pervade the air, heavy and oppressive. They bury and dig into my head like tiny maggots, worming their way into my skull. It's only then that they take notice of my presence. Eyes turn towards me, and I can only feel small under their scrutiny. Caricature smiles etched on their faces, mimicking each other grotesquely.
Oh, Marianne! How long have you been standing there, dearie?
Come join us, Marianne. We won't bite. Unless you ask, that is.
Have you been looking at us? Spying? How scandalous. Such a naughty girl.
I'm sure you were just waiting for something lewd to happen, weren't you?
You know she will not admit it. She thinks it wrong. You've said it so yourself.
Yes. She thought me wrong, impure, abnormal, because I loved her.
My breath hitches, and I open my mouth to protest, but they stop me, screeching. The mirror that holds them cracks, lines spidering across the surface.
Do not lie. We know the gluttonous thoughts you try to deny, girl. All those desires you bury beneath that sickening guilt. You act the martyr when you turn the bed you lie in into your own hedonistic hell. You are nothing but a tainted soul with filth-stained flesh held together by falsehood and pride.
They look livid, and when it looks like they would lunge, I wake, feeling like the wind has been knocked out of me. With a groan, I squint and find a certain fluff ball sitting on my chest, looking as pleased as Punch. She is the Overlady of Cats, Queen of Despair and Destruction of Nice Furniture. Though I can't stay mad at Her Majesty because it feels like she did something good this time. I was having a nightmare, but I can't even remember what it was about. Trying to recall leaves a terrible pit in my stomach. Maybe it's probably better that I don't remember.
Good morning, Baruthiel. Who's the good kitty? Are you hungry? Is that why you woke me up?
A content purr comes from my sweet dear before she jumps off the bed and trots toward the kitchen. On the other hand, it takes me a bit before I roll out of bed and start my day. Mornings before work is always a quiet affair. Shower first, then a mug and a bowl of oats. Sometimes I do stretches, and I always check my work email. The Wrights will be moving into the mansion today. I don't think the paperwork is officially done yet, but it isn't too far-fetched to think they were allowed to start their move despite that. Rich people like them will always find ways to get what they want after all.
I'll be leaving you again today, Beth. So you behave and make sure not to shred up my new covers, okay? And don't worry, I didn't forget tomorrow is Black Cat Day, so I'll throw you a party. But only if you behave like a proper lady.
She barely gives me a glance as I say that before going back to her own food. Cats. Still better than humans. Most of the time. Too bad I have to work with humans. Alright, I'm gonna end the episode there. We'll continue this in the next one. Till then, this is the Gamer Girl, signing off. Bye bye.